Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Low Rollers Live, a Dungeons & Dragons live adventure. I, as always, am your host, Danny Allinson, and I play the role of Bryn Wanders. With me here tonight is Robert Seitz, as Zarrius, servant of Obad-hai.
Good evening.
Nice. Alan Seymour, playing Lady Lilith von Kiln.
Howdy, howdy.
We have Rachael Murphy, playing Isgrim. I can't pronounce his last name.
Barajone. And,
there it is.
Hi.
We have Danny Garcia, playing Astor Mithlader.
Hello.
Jonathan Edwards as Narroth, the Prince of Thieves.
Hello.
And of course, our amazing dungeon master, Mr. Christopher Rondeau.
Yeah, I think that's me.
That's you. You want to go ahead and catch us up and then take it away. Chris, catch us up and take us away.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi, did you do a recap?
No, you do the recap.
Dang it. So we left off, we have wrapped up our House Collins chapter, and the party has been traveling. And as reviewing my map, I realized I did not do the days correctly, but we will say that we traveled for those amount of days, and it makes sense despite the disproportionate aspect of how it would actually be. So don't ask questions. And we arrive and we see the lake. And we take in the beauty, and for the first time the party really gets a breath of fresh air since arriving on this continent. Upon visiting the lake, there is another encampment which the party decides to approach, basically to share a fire for the night, where you meet the Flaming Furnace trio, Rack, Shack, and Benny, who some of them at first seemed kind of hesitant, but it became the fun evening of fishing, where the party also met an ice dwarf named Isgrim, who had a lot of interesting things to say about the Cascade Mountains and sort of some of the going-ons involving such a thing. The party opted to sleep for the night at that point after discussing some plans going forward, which involves going to the city of Vienna to potentially participate in the Festival of Returning Light. But we are actually not going to start there today. We are going to start about 3 weeks prior to this thing, where we see Lilith leaving the Blackwater Mansion again, and you see her going off with these two men, which she left in the care of Mild Miles, heading towards Tyria. So, we haven't had character descriptors in a while, so Alan, why don't you give me a description of Lady Lilith von Kiln?
Okay. Lady Lilith von Kiln is a human female. She is average in most ways. She has a short blonde pixie haircut. She wears a green shirt with black trim. She wears a long leather duster that has green and gold trim and matching boots. She wears tight white pants, and her shirt is cut low to accentuate certain parts of her body to exude confidence, as she is a merchant by trade. She does have a shield and a pistol holstered at her side, and she also carries a flanged rod with 6 small buttons on it. Around her neck is the holy symbol of Arathis, which is a blue gear. And at this point, she is probably not her chipper, radiant self. She is more subdued as with what just happened.
Perfect. So Lilith has just left the party. She's been traveling for about 3 days at this point. It's going to take you about a week to a week and a half to get to Tyria, depending on your pace. And at this point, I think Lilith is overcome with a lot of the emotions she has experienced in the past week or so, to her memory at least, past week. So why don't you explain to me a little bit about how Lilith is carrying herself as she ventures forward?
Well, she got a message from her home temple that there was a civil war going on in the kingdom of Tyria, which she is from, and her house is a very prominent house within the Merchants Guild, and so she felt the need to go back. She has the overwhelming guilt in her from what transpired in the tower and how she basically sided with the enemy, and it's weighing heavy on her, and she feels that had she not taken her actions, the wounded king wouldn't even be here. So she blames herself for the events that are transpiring in the world, and it weighs heavy on her, and she doesn't know how to fix it. But if she can fix the problems at home, maybe then it can start to push a path towards moving on.
Perfect. So as you start traveling down this road, you will see you will hear voices coming from further down the road. You hear about 4 of them. One is a female voice, and 3 of them appear to be male, and the voices are loud enough to know that this isn't just a pleasant conversation. This is some sort of argument shouting.
I sort of get off to the side of the road and sort of survey what they look like.
If stereotypical bandit was a descriptor, it would be that.
Now, are they harassing somebody? Is that what's going on?
So, as you describe it, as you approach it, you see 3 people in 3 bandits. They are wearing leathers. They have daggers out, and there's this woman who appears to be a cloak. You cannot see her face or anything like that at the moment.
Okay. Just as calm as can be, I stroll towards them, just casually strolling down the road, and say, "Is there a problem here?"
They both pull, or all 3 of them pull out or point their daggers in your direction and go, Hey, we got another one. Why don't you give us all your gold there, madam?"
I just look at them and I laugh, and I say, "Do you really want to do this?"
Yeah.
And I'm going to roll a persuasion check. Yeah.
They look at you, they chuckle, they go, "You know what? If you don't give us the money, we will kill her." And you hear whimpering coming from the cloaked figure.
With that, I how close are they to the woman?
Within 10 feet.
Do I know I can safely cast a certain spell and to put the not to kill them, to put the fear of God in them without hurting the woman?
Probably. For the sake of this, sure.
Okay.
Wait, I got music for this. Okay, tell me what you're gonna do.
Okay. So what I do is I look at them and I say, you do not want to do this. And I cast a flame strike within 5 feet of them so that they feel the heat from the flames, but not, it doesn't actually harm them, because if I probably hit these petty little bandits, it's going to kill them. So I cast this spell to more as like an intimidate than a actually doing them harm.
Yeah. Why don't you give me an intimidate with advantage with your wisdom stat instead of your charisma stat?
Okay. So add 4 to this roll.
Sure. Yeah, so I think you successfully put the fear of God in them, and they basically fall on their bum and they scramble to get up and they run away.
And with that, I walk up to the lady and say, "May I help you to your feet?" And I hold out my hand.
She reaches for your hand, but you realize her actual hand doesn't appear to be a humanoid hand. It appears to be a metallic hand. And as she gets up, she pulls back her cloak, and you recognize the figure of Arathis herself.
I drop to a knee. "My lady."
You've been busy, Lilith. Or in many ways you haven't been. You've been off the radar for a little bit.
My path strayed. I became obsessed with revenge. And it strayed me from the path of where I should have been.
Yes, but that is where you were. Let us talk to where you are now. Where are you going, child?
Home.
I'm not sure you're going to like what you will find in Syria.
I know. I have been apprised of the situation. My home is in the midst of a civil war.
And what do you hope to do if you return home?
Hopefully bring an end, or at least a stall to hostilities.
Lilith, I represent civilization and advancement, technology, to some extent, or so the goblins believe at least. You have chosen to be on the seedier aspects of civilization. You have been a merchant, successful merchant, but doing some deceptive tactics, and she indicates towards your shirt. But perhaps you are meant for something more.
I don't know. My actions have caused great harm. My actions have caused harm to people that I care about, people that I've grown to trust, my family that I love, my friends that I love. And I just want to protect them from the harm that my actions have caused.
I understand, and in your own saying, you have said what you need to do. Instead of deceit, think about being one of the stalwart defenders of civilization. Be the person between the great evil and the rest of the innocent people in the world. Stop the deceit now and go forward as a defender. And I promise you'll always be where you are needed most.
Thank you.
You see her look towards the direction of Tyrion. She waves her hand around, and through her hand you see her arm turn into what I'm going to describe as a Teen Titan cyborg cannon. You see her momentarily shoot it, and this familiar blue gear appears that has a doorway in the middle of it, and she walks up to it and opens it and goes, "Tyrion needs you. Take this path. It'll take you where you need to be faster. It is where you are needed."
And I walk through the door.
And we fade to black. We enter back towards the lake, and it is now 3 weeks later, or 4 weeks or so, and the party has gone to sleep, and they are starting to rise. I'm going to say that everyone wakes up around the same time to basically start breaking up camp. But at this point, I think Danny Allinson, you asked me for Bryn not to be at the camp at this exact moment.
Probably, yeah.
So, as you guys are breaking down tents and that sort of thing, we'll say, let's go over some of the character descriptions now. Astor, why don't you tell me how Astor is? Explain your appearance and facial features and etc. for me, please.
Sure. So, Astor is a male half-elf with average height. He's got a rather trim body frame. He has a pretty flexible set of muscles whenever you see him actually in action. That's the reason for him being a performer, doing musical and acrobatic types of things, as well as wielding weapons, because he uses his sword as part of his routine sometimes as well. He has a light tan skin color with shoulder-length brown hair that is tied back into a ponytail. He has green eyes, and he does have a burn wound surrounding his left eye, which he unintentionally received from a fireball cast by Moradin, who is now currently a god as far as we know. He wears half-plate armor over simple traveler's garbs. It's a single plate that covers his torso and is black in appearance with dark red ornamentation on the edges of the plate, which are prayers of protection written in Elvish. On his back, he has a lute that is of elven design. It has a soundboard, which has the crest of his family on it, which is a box that is carved into the wood. And at this point, you would think he's not carrying any weapons, which the reason for that is because it's it is Dad, who is currently walking around in a humanoid form, but they both work together so that she becomes his weapon. And that's more or less Astor Mithlader.
Cool. And Narroth, can you give me a description of your character in this venture, I guess?
Sure. So Narroth is a humanoid, but looks mostly like a man with dragon scales. He has a tail that is usually wrapped around his legs, and he is from head to toe a very red hue. Now, he usually doesn't have much in terms of, well, clothes, really. He wears a long tunic, mostly, that goes to his feet, but other than that, he simply walks around with just him. He usually carries a dagger that is red in color, and he has a ring piercing his nose.
Cool. I think we'll get to everyone else's character descriptions later, but what would the party like to do at this moment, knowing that Bryn is not very there, but you know her to be
Present.
a wanderer of sorts?
I'd probably approach the group, not having seen them yet, and greet them with a morning or whatnot. And I'll start off by saying, so is everyone here that you've seen so far, or who have you guys seen? And this is directed more towards Narroth and Astor.
I mean, it feels like we're missing a shade of red here, but aside from that, I think we're all here. Is this usual? Is she always gone around this time?
I can't recall this normally happening, at least.
Narroth looks over. She likes to wander. We know that. Perhaps we should look before she wanders too far.
I see.
Then again, I feel like she wants to be alone at times, and so I think maybe we should just let her be for now.
Well, I'm assuming we want to wait for her to come back before we go, or...
Probably. That's a good idea. Have the elementals woken up yet, Chris?
Oh yeah, they're breaking camp.
I approach them and say, "Good morning. I was wondering if you guys had seen our other red friend. Her name's Bryn. Did you see her go off anywhere?"
They kind of look around. Oh, I don't know. She might have taken some fish from our leftover supplies last night. That's about all we got.
Would you know how many?
Just enough for breakfast, really.
Okay.
She liked swimming last night. Maybe she's out by the lake.
Maybe we'll go check there. Thanks. And I motion for Narroth and Astor to follow me, and I walk towards the lake.
Astor jogs lightly to catch up to Zarrius quicker, and he says, "Does she always leave without a word, or does she actually leave some kind of message ever?"
She'll be found if she wants to be found.
Which is normal for her to want to be found, I feel like.
I see.
Narroth is going to walk straight into the lake and do what, similarly to what the group was doing last night. Narroth is going to kind of adapt his body through the use of magic to be more streamlined for the waters. His fingers gain webbing. His legs merge together to form some sort of tail, and he basically swims along the shore faster than he could walk.
Okay. So Narroth is going to basically scout in the water. What is Astor and Zarrius going to do?
I'm going to suggest to Astor, how about you go that direction and I'll go the other direction, see if we could find anything and meet back in about 10 minutes.
Sounds like a plan to me. Astor does as he requested.
So, based on what I understand, it seems like Narroth would be the most likely to find Bryn, so we're just going to go with that. You basically travel along the coast a little bit, and you find more of a place that's surrounded by it's like the corner of the lake almost. It's still deep, but it's on a cliffside, so people looking up will not see. Looking down into the water won't see anyone in the corners as easily. It's a little more secluded. But you find Bryn wanders there. Danny, why don't you describe your character?
Okay. Bryn wanders. Let me pull up my description. Bryn wanders is a tiefling. She stands about 5'4", and seems to be in her late teens or early 20s. She does have a runner's build. Seems like she walks a lot, which you would kind of be aware of if you knew her. Coral skin, horns, purple eyes, and poorly cut white hair. Right now, though, she is not wearing anything as she is bathing in the lake.
Any other scripters?
No, not right now.
Okay. Narroth. We'll say you don't quite realize doesn't have clothes on quite at this moment, but you do see her.
Okay. Not knowing that she does not have clothes on, Narroth is going to swim in her direction, just excited that he found her.
I mean, she seems to be minding her own business right now.
Perfect. When Narroth is, let's say, a stone's throw away, he's going to call out, surface most of his body above the water and call out, "Bryn, we've been looking for you."
She's probably going to freak out for a second because he scared the crap out of her. You could have been a little bit more... Come on.
Narroth is completely oblivious to the situation. He goes, "But we're looking for you. We need to go. We're on our..." And he kind of stops short as he notices. Uh-oh. Narroth is going to immediately turn his back.
Okay, well, you don't have to be weird about it now.
So should I look? Should I not look? This is
Just
getting confusing.
Can you go get my clothes?
Narroth goes to shore and search for some clothing.
It's probably fairly close, so find
Yeah,
it.
it's probably in a pretty obvious pile on the ground.
Perfect. Narroth is going to grab the bundle of clothing and approach with his eyes firmly trained on the clothing he has above his head so it doesn't get wet.
Okay. She'll exit the water. So when she gets close to you, she'll go like, "Can you lower that, please?" And first thing you notice when she grabs the clothes out of your hands is that she takes a ring off the top of the pile, slips it onto her left hand, and then grabs the pants. You notice that her pants aren't actual like full-length pants. They're capris that go up probably like half of her calf. And you'll actually notice on her right leg as she slips in, the leg has a scar along the front of the calf, almost the entire length of her calf all the way down.
As he sees these, well, first of all, which finger does the ring go on?
Ring finger.
Okay. As he sees this, Narroth is going to say, "That's a nasty scar. Looks like it hurt." He is also trying to look, in almost a different direction.
Almost.
Yeah, almost.
I mean, he saw the scar, so...
Yeah, that one, you know how you get scars like this?
How?
That's what happens when the bone breaks through the skin.
Ah. Bad break?
Oh, yeah. It's not the only one I have either, and she'll lift up her left arm, and like on her rib cage, she has 2 more scars that look exactly the same.
Narroth takes a half look and then looks away. Oh yeah, that that also looks pretty bad.
She'll slip her shirt on.
Turn a shade darker red.
Yep, all happened at the same time.
What happened? Narroth said, kind of like admiring the scenery everywhere except in the direction of Bryn.
She'll slip her shirt on so he can stop being weird. Well, you have time for a story?
Yes. Zarrius might not be too happy about it, but this is going to...
Okay, just sit down.
Narroth sits down right in the water.
She'll sit down on the shore, close to it so he can hear, but not in the water itself. So, a long, long time ago, there was a girl named Bryn, and she came to a town, pretty small, don't remember the name of it, but had rolling hills, the smell of tobacco filled the air. And when she came to this town, she heard a scream. So she went and checked it out, and found a man who called himself a deputy, who was roughing up, we'll say, a young lady and her child. So, Bryn Wanders, being herself, decided to intervene. Yeah, have you ever heard the saying, eye for an eye?
Narroth nods. Yes.
Well, think of that, except with fingers instead. This was before the guns.
I see. And then?
Well, that was that until the sheriff of the town decided to step in to protect his deputies. You see, they had been running a scheme. As long as you paid them, then you were protected.
Narroth nods. I see.
Well, with the help of a few townspeople, I managed to chase out the sheriff and his deputies. And, well, one of them was branded, but the other left without most of his fingers on his right hand. And it seemed like, for the time being, that was that. But a few years later, the deputy managed to find me again. And he cornered me. And, well, that's when I got all these scars.
He did not kill you for what you did.
No. Although, I think that was his intention. You don't usually break somebody's back and expect them to live.
Narroth raises an eyebrow. And you recovered from this.
Oh, yeah. It took a while. And believe me, it wasn't fun. You can imagine that somebody like me who defines themselves like I do, to not be able to move for an extended period of time was rough. In fact, I was told that I probably would never walk again.
Narroth nods, his face kind of darkening. But you did.
Oh, yeah. That didn't sit too well with me. I couldn't live a life confined to a room or to a bed. I had to walk. So, it took some time, but baby steps. Lots of crutches, a lot of tears. But eventually I made it back out.
That is an incredible feat.
It was not an easy win. But that's not really the end of the story.
Narroth nods silently.
I think you can imagine that I was a little pissed off. And I managed to find this man again. Called himself Fist, because he only had one. And, well, that's when I got these guns.
From him or for him?
From him.
I see.
You know, before it all happened, I thought it would make me feel better. But it didn't.
What did you feel?
I felt like, after it was all said and done, that nothing really changed. Or, if it did, it was for the worse. I feel that even in his death, he had control of me. Because all of my emotions were consumed by him.
Narroth nods, a little bit absent-mindedly. His thoughts are clearly in another place.
I guess what I learned from the whole thing is that I don't want to be somebody who takes from others. I think in the grand scheme of things, at the end of the day, you're not measured by what you have, but by what you gave.
Narroth nods. When did you get so wise, little one?
Oh, I've always been this way.
Narroth gives a pretty hearty laugh and stands up from out of the water, his tunic dripping and probably muddy. Thank you.
For what?
Sharing your story.
Oh, I got plenty of stories. You want to hear another one?
Narroth laughs. Yes, but we should probably tell it on the way back to camp.
Okay. I think that all this wisdom you're talking about comes with all the experience. And we could just fade to black as they walk back.
Okay. So perhaps we'll just say you guys meet at the coast near the camp to make it easier. Be it through Astor coming in at one point in time, or Zarrius, or something like that. But you're all together at this point.
Good morning, everybody.
Good.
Find your ray of sunshine.
Every morning. Gotta have one.
Where have you been?
I was off in the lake. You know, some of us actually clean ourselves, Zarrius. She, pinches her nose.
He lifts up his arm and sniffs and shrugs his shoulders.
Narroth gives a low chuckle.
I understand that I might stink, but next time if you could maybe tell us where you might be headed off to, it might not worry us as much and it might not stall us as much. We could have been on our way a little ways already.
Really, at this point, you're worried about me? She, flips, draws her gun and, flips it, 4 times in the air.
That's not what I mean by worried.
What he means is you inconvenience everybody without notifying us where you went.
God, you guys are so boring.
Narroth
Astor rolls his eyes.
Narroth leans over to Bryn. They mean worried.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Anyways, let's pack up and leave.
Okay, I'm assuming that the Iskrim and the Flaming Furnace trio have finished packing up at this point. So, as Zarrius is walking back to camp, why don't Zarrius give me a character description?
Okay. I am Zarrius, and I stand about 3 feet 2 inches tall, so rather short. I am a gnome. Physically, I'm a gnome, but in terms of skin color and the such, I am a tiefling. So, dark red hue to my skin, gnome in stature, and I'm a little bit of a leaner. That might not be the right word. More fit gnome than most people think. Medium set build. He is on the older side, so you probably will see a few wrinkles on his face, whatnot. He's 80 something. It's in my backstory. I don't have it up in front of me. About 80, in mid 80s in age, and he has short pointy horns on the top of his head. He's got a scar on the left side of his face that runs from his left eye down to his mouth. It's a little bit darker color than the rest of his skin. He's also got regular looking clothes, green tunic and brown trousers. He has a tail that sticks out of his pants, and it's kind of nubby, rounded on the end from a little incident that he had a little while ago, along with some grooves out of his tail from another incident that happened. And he has his club in both hands, usually, sometimes just one. It's got the symbol of Obad-hai at one point on the branches, kind of pointy towards the top, not really like a spear, kind of bulges out almost and then comes back together at a point. And then you see the roots kind of like a tree on the bottom. And he has a whip on one side of his hip.
And Iskrim, why don't you describe tell me exactly how you want to pronounce that word.
You got it right. Iskrim.
Iskrim. Why don't you give me a character description?
Okay, so Iskrim is an ice dwarf, and generally speaking, that means he's going to have very pale skin, and he does. It's almost snow-colored so that he could blend in. His hair is a dark kind of, medium slate blue, so you could hide in shadows. He wears kind of fur and hide armor, and this is all kind of light grays and browns, things that could hide in very well in the tundra. He carries his shield, and his main weapon it's a war pick, but it also is, think of it like a climber's pick that they would use when climbing like Mount Everest, like places where you go to climb in ice.
Perfect. So all the bags are packed. It's a reminder we have Rack, Shack, and Benny. Rack is he is about 5'7". He wields a mace and a shield. We have Shaq, who has a staff on his back. He doesn't appear to be wearing too much armor. We have another person who, Benny, who seems to have an assortment of hatchets surrounding his belt, about 4 approximately. He also seems to have a long sword on his back. They're packed up. Their bags are everything is set for everyone to leave. There's some fish from the night before set out as well. At this point, we will have the grand re-entrance of Lilith. So, Alan, why don't you describe to me how Lilith will re-enter at this moment?
As you guys are packing up, you see coming over the rise of the hill a figure that you don't instantly recognize. She's wearing now a more conservative blue undercloak and has a silver breastplate with silver pauldrons and bracers. She also has silver armored knee-high boots. There's black pants, and you still see something hanging around her neck. As she gets closer, you can tell that it is Lilith, dressed now more conservatively and in armor, which you've never seen her before.
Bryn's gonna scream, "Lilith!" and then run over to her. Probably like throw her bag on the ground and like cling against the armor.
With your wet hair.
Yeah.
Bryn,
I have something for you.
I have something for you.
Let's trade. She'll pull from, like, basically from behind her, like tucked into the back of her pants. She'll draw a pistol, give it a few spins at the front, and then grab it by the barrel so that the handle is facing Lilith. Here's your pistol back.
And she says, well, that was going to be my gift to you. I was going to tell you to keep it. It would serve you better than it does me.
Oh. Thanks. She'll give her a hug. I just got to find a place to put this.
And with that, Lilith reaches into her bag of holding and now pulls out the holster that the gun belonged to. And when she pulls it out, you see the holster used to be a very plain, simple holster. Now you see stamped in it, you know how they stamp leather, stamped in it the symbol of a gear and your name written in small Old English letters on the holster of the pistol.
Thank you.
And she says, your bubbly personality has helped me immensely over these last few weeks. And with that, before she breaks down in tears, she walks over to Astor and Zarrius.
Someone got a couple of upgrades. How are you?
Not upgrades. I just dropped I had a come to goddess moment, as it were, and she told me something that is very true. Most of my life I've been relying on deceit and deception. That is no longer the case. I have always worn this armor, and this has always been the armor that I have worn. But the guise that I used to take up was just that, a guise. There's no longer any need for disguise.
I'm glad you seem to have found yourself while away. It's refreshing to see that, and just great overall to see you.
I have not found myself, but I have found a path. Maybe on that path, I will find myself.
Well, it's always good to be pushing forward towards a goal and to follow along and see where that path takes you. And I hope that we are here to see you through that.
Yeah, don't worry if you accidentally walk off that path. Some of us here will be able to pull you back on.
And with that, she turns to Narroth. She just looks at him, and you can see the slightest tear in her eye. And she goes, I know nothing I can say will repair the damage that I have caused. But hopefully, one day, I can call you a friend again, and you will call me a friend again.
Narroth is going to look at her for probably an uncomfortably long time, just training one of his reptilian eyes on her, and then finally saying, you came back. It's a start.
I did. Over the last couple of weeks, there has, as you know, there has been civil war in Tyria. My church, the Church of Arathis, has chosen to back the king. And my mother, being a long-standing friend of the queen, decided to back the queen. I tried through all of my wily silvery tongue of my merchant days to bring peace, but that didn't work. I spent days and days talking with each side, trying to break the hold that has come over our homeland. And nothing I said, nothing I could do would change people's minds. So therefore, I found the best way to help my family, to help the people that I love, to help our homeland, and I look specifically at Narroth, was to finally take up the mantle and do what I was meant to do and join the fight against the Wounded King. Right now, there is a current standstill in the violence. There has been no outward attacks by either the Queen's side or the King's side. But I know that behind the scenes, something major is building, and there will be a major battle if we do not bring an end to lecherous Leon's hold over Excelsior.
Well then, no dilly-dallying. Dilly-doubt. No messing around.
As she looks around, though, she sees the dwarf and the three, I'm assuming they're fire genasi.
That's correct.
She sees the three genasi and the dwarf and says, "Who are the newcomers?"
We met up with them last night and discussed the city we're approaching and the festival that they're about to have. And we met Iskrim. I probably butchered that, but oh well.
No, you got it. And
okay.
Iskrim nods his head in inclination.
He will be accompanying us to this city, and then we're making a stopover in, I don't remember what town it was. Darn it.
Vienna.
Perfect. We're making a stop there, and then we will be helping Iskrim with the trouble that she has with her people.
I'm sorry. What was that in the background?
I don't know.
Clock.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, continue.
I have no control over that.
So Lilith walks up to the dwarf and extends her hand and says, "Hi, I'm Lilith von Kiln."
Iskrim looks Lilith up and down, judging the practicality of what she's wearing, and extends his hand and shakes yours. It's a very firm grasp, but not crushing. And he also says, "I am Iskrim, of the Bear Clan."
Pleasure to meet you.
He nods.
Shall we be off?
Do you have horses?
Chris, can I have my horse?
You can have your pony thing, but yeah.
Yes. So Iskrim looks at you and says, "Well, I have a pony, but it is mine."
Well, you might be able to help us then. And Lilith reaches into her bag again, and she pulls out a small carved, it's a carved piece of ivory in the shape of a cart. And she sets it on the ground and speaks a word that you don't recognize. And the cart grows to full size. if you hitch your pony to that, we might all get a ride.
Isgrim nods, walks over to his pony, pats it on the head, gives it a sugar cube, brings it over to the cart, and hitches it up.
Sugar cube.
What?
Sorry, continue.
Fine, a carrot.
Give it a sugar cube. I just thought it was funny.
So spiteful.
And as she hitches up, or he hitches up. Sorry, I'm gonna do it.
It's okay. It happens all the time.
Yeah, I'm playing a woman as a male. I understand. So I hand him the reins and I sit beside him and say, "The rest of you coming?" And it's not a large cart, but it's a small covered merchant's caravan type of cart.
Oh, good. So I wouldn't struggle to get in. Okay. I get in with them, with Lilith, and wave my hand for the rest of them to join.
Well, the pony isn't going to be able to pull the cart very fast. So if you guys are looking to trot out of danger, it's not going to be the best way to do it, just as a heads up.
No, it's so that we don't have to walk the whole way.
Sure.
Bryn is... Go ahead.
It's not a, Old West style carriage trying to escape, a rival gang or something. It's just a, merchant's caravan cart.
Bryn is probably going to be walking next to the pony.
Astor kind of takes the point that Chris made earlier and also is going to walk beside the pony just so that it doesn't get tired quickly.
I'm assuming the point was shifts, not necessarily everyone walking on the pony at once.
Bryn will be walking the entire time.
Okay.
Yeah, Astor probably will as well unless he gets tired, but it's probably not going to be the case for a while.
Whenever Narroth's going to walk as much as he possibly can, but whenever he does tire, he will sit on the top of the caravan rather than in the caravan itself.
Cool. So it'll take about 2 days to get to Vienna. What do you guys want to scene, or did you guys have scenes in mind, I guess, or should I just go to the montage?
Astor wants one.
Okay.
So Zarrius hears Astor's voice in his ear saying, "Zarrius, may I have a word with you?" And he uses the message cantrip so that only Zarrius can hear him.
You point your finger.
I do.
How rude.
How threatening.
Not very threatening at all.
I will poke my head outside of the carriage and say to Lilith, "Pardon me. I'm gonna walk a little ways to get a little bit of exercise."
Sure.
And I walk over towards Astor and give a tap on the shoulder and just greet him by saying hello.
Yeah, I just wanted a word with you. Let's just hang back for a little bit.
Sure.
So, I mean, we'll slow our pace until we're just out of earshot so that we can have a conversation.
Shouldn't be too hard.
Yeah. Okay, so Astor, while they're still walking, is going to be addressing Zarrius, and he says, So Zarrius, how have you been since coming to this continent?
It's been a little bit of a struggle, but I feel like overall I've grown as a person since we've come to this continent. It's been rather humbling, personally.
Really, if I may ask, how so?
Well, the place where the king, where you joined us in fighting the king, that was a whole mess of an ordeal, and it caused a lot of us to turn our heads, per se, get ideas as to what they were into as a culture, like what they were interested in. And it wasn't very appealing to us. And so it just challenged me as a person to really think about my morals, and I got a stronger grip about what I really care about.
Yeah, you do seem to be a bit more steady, I guess could be the word I'd use to describe you at the moment.
Sure.
Yeah.
In terms of you not being here, it's been kind of weird, and I would say good for me, just because I was more used to you just saying, "Oh, let's go do this," and then you weren't here to actually do that, so someone actually had to do that, which was me in this case, and it was kind of frightening. And it could have gone a little better on many occasions, but I think I have a grasp as to what needs to happen a little bit more.
That's good. I mean, as I'm sure you know fairly well, life very rarely goes the way you want it to. I know that very well from recent experience.
Yes. And how's the little one, and how's Lana? It's Lana, right? Sorry, out of character.
It's Lana, yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I had a brain fart moment.
That's alright, man. So yeah, Astor responds and says, yeah, so Caleb is quite adorable. When he was born, my ears nearly fell off from how loud he was crying, which was a good sign, I think.
He'll be like his father.
Astor kind of gives you I don't even know how to explain it, just kind of like a what's that supposed to mean type of look.
And I chuckle.
You little. Anyways, but yeah, he's doing all right. You know, his mother is quite affectionate. I got to hold him a bit. It was quite the experience, and I kind of can't wait to go back. But Lana, on the other hand, she's doing fine, very fine. As I stated a little while back, she was healthy enough to kind of floor me with a very well-placed punch, which, yeah, it was very impressive. But, sorry, go ahead.
What was that for? Just all of the craziness that you put her through, maybe?
Well, I'm sure it was that among other things. I mean, how would you feel if you had a significant person in your life that, 7-8 months or so go by and you hear nothing from them, and then all of a sudden they come back? You'd probably be happy, but there are some people who kind of get the more passionate reaction, if you will.
That definitely sounds like Lana.
Yeah, her hair isn't red for show. But anyways, I mean, I'm kind of in the middle of still trying to get back on her good graces because, I still care about her, I still love her, but boy, is she mad.
Well, it might be good for you then to go see her sooner than later, just because I know it's important for both of you and Caleb for you guys to all be together.
I agree. However, the point that I made to Lana is that while I do want to be there are some mistakes that I made which I want to own up to, as well as, if I have the ability of making the world a bit of a better place for both of them to live in, I want to kind of try and achieve that. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yes, I definitely understand. And you joining us now will definitely greatly help, I feel like, our mission to rid him of this continent.
Astor at this point gives Zarrius a pretty warm smile, and then after a second or two his face goes a bit serious, and he says, on that note, there is something I wanted to discuss with you before we continue to proceed.
Go ahead.
Yes, now, there have been people saying that I am supposed to be the leader of this group, which, quite frankly, I think is a bit of a difficult thing to do. I will do it because a lot of people seem to apparently have confidence that I'd be able to succeed on that. However, I have been seeing that you, well, like you said, you have grown as a person. People seem to be relying on you more. You're kind of being more proactive, I guess would be the word I'd use, which I can greatly appreciate.
That would be an accurate word, yeah. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, but the reason why I want us to have this discussion is so that we can, how do I put this, so that we can better function as a unit, and having, multiple pulls in different directions in terms of who's doing what would definitely get in the way of that.
Definitely.
So, while I would gladly take up the mantle of leader, so to speak, one quality that I think would be very important for me to utilize is to know what's best for the situation, and if it is necessary to kind of delegate the leader role on occasion to someone who will make it work better. Does that make sense?
Yes, I believe so. I think I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, so to kind of just expand on that a little bit. While we have all heard that I am the leader of this group, he does kind of the air quotes when he says leader.
Sure.
I think for the time being, because of where we are, the culture, the current circumstances, I believe that it would actually be best to have you kind of be the face of our group, because people won't doubt for a second that you are out of the influence of our lovely Leon, who's God knows where. So, I want you to keep doing what you've been doing. What I will do is probably kind of just help you, maybe be an advisor or something like that, and I'll use my lovely charms on occasion to help people sway over to the decision or the opinion that you have, if I think that it's correct as well. But long story short, for the time being, I will follow you, I will help you as best I can, and hopefully we can succeed in lending a hand in taking down this lecherous Leon.
Well, thank you very much for your assurance in me. I have, since you were away, I've seen many of our companions assist me, as you have stated you would, in conversations that we've had. Even though some of our backgrounds have differed greatly, we tend to agree on certain things that are, let's just say, rather cruel and unusual punishments, such as what we saw in the city we were just in.
Don't remind me.
I've seen this mostly, surprisingly, with Narroth. Almost, he's given his opinion in great lengths and has stated it so fluently that it sways some of us to his side of things, per se. But at the same time, he was almost outnumbered by the rest of us who are, well, let's just say a little less cruel. And we were able to sway his ideals back to a more neutral zone of influence, I guess you might say. But that being said, I greatly appreciate your companionship and your way with words, per se, as we continue on our mission to rid him of this place.
I'm assuming you mean Lecherous Leon.
Of course, yes. And not Narroth, definitely. Not Narroth.
I figured.
Yes, rid the Lecherous Leon from this continent. And
Yeah.
I understand where you're coming from in terms of the not being mind controlled, since I am slightly immune. I'm immune to his psychic ways. So, and in the places where we have been, they have not known about the Lecherous Leon. That Lecherous Leon has escaped, and they are kind of oblivious to what has gone on Excelsior. So we'll see as we go through the places where we are stopping and see whether they have heard or not of the issues that we have caused.
Begrudgingly so, but yes, definitely sounds like we're in for some hard times, but all we can do is do the best we can.
Yes, and rely on each other to get the job done.
Agreed.
Why
Well,
don't...
shall we join up with the rest of our group?
Yes, I think we shall. Let's get a move on. And I guess we're going to kind of jog back up to the cart and everybody else.
Sounds good.
Do we want any other scenes between any other players or NPCs, I guess?
Yeah. Narroth is going to want a scene with Bryn.
She's feeding a sugar cube to Butterscotch.
Perfect. Narroth is going to walk up beside Bryn as Bryn is, putting out the hand, and the horse is kind of looking over at it. There's a kind of, bravery being shown by Bryn to trust an animal that is a bit larger than her. Narroth's going to look over as she's feeding the horse, and he's going to see the glint of metal on her finger and say, "So, what is the story behind that particular piece of jewelry you have there?"
Behind what?
The ring.
Oh, it's just my lucky ring.
Lucky ring. I see. Does it have a story?
Nope, it's just a pretty ring.
Where did you find it?
At a shop somewhere. Same with these. And she like turns her head, and she has 2 earrings on her right ear. One's white, one's blue. They're like bone earrings.
Then why do you wear it on the ring finger of your left hand?
Well, rings go on the ring finger. Don't they?
Wearing it on the left hand might have a certain connotation.
Connotation? What? Is that a dragon thing?
Narroth laughs and then points to Astor in the distance. He is also wearing a ring on his left hand on the ring finger.
Wait, is Astor actually wearing a ring?
Yes.
Oh.
I think I'll write that in my description. Hold on.
Okay. But continue.
Is that his lucking ring?
That is his wedding ring.
He's not married.
Wait, isn't he?
It's engagement.
Oh, I see. An engagement ring.
Okay. Is that a half-elf thing?
It's a pretty much everyone thing. Most people tend to put that ring on their left ring finger to show everyone that they are attached.
Ooh. No, I just wear it here so I could... Oh, go ahead.
I just add romantically.
Oh. No, I just wear it because of this, and she draws her gun pretty quickly and points it at Narroth. And then, like, kind of moves her finger and, like, clicks it against the wood on the handle. Lucky ring.
I see. Interesting. I should have assumed that, but you never know. Sometimes someone even as young as you can be married off.
Oh, yeah? Married off?
As is the style in most places we go.
Oh, well, you see, have you ever been to where I'm from?
Where are you from, little one?
Out west, from the Freelands.
I have not had the pleasure.
No laws there, no governments. You do what you want.
None at all.
Well, I mean, every town has its own.
I see.
I think we do things a little bit differently there.
Most likely. Narroth is going to kind of give a smile and then back off a little slightly until he thinks of something and walks forward again. Tell me more about these freelands.
What do you want to know?
More about them.
Well, I mean, it's a rugged place. Typically, the only law is what you carry on your hip, whether that be sword or something else. The further in you go, the more scrappy it gets. A lot of untamed country there. Bandits wandering around, owning pretty much all of it. But if you go on the outskirts of the Freelands, closer to Tyria, you can find some pretty nice country. Nice place to just live without having to worry about any sort of kings or rulers. Just live.
Then I'm mad. No kings or rulers, but no one to protect you from bandits. It would be easy to be outnumbered there.
Yeah, but usually you can find some people who think like you, and who can do what you do.
So you form a sort of group, and you band together.
I mean, no different than what we're doing now. And she kind of like points to the entire party of like 10 people now. 9 people.
Narroth shrugs and smiles. But if enough of you band together to completely protect yourselves against those bandits, how is that different than some of these small towns? What is to stop that group of people from getting bigger into a city?
Nothing.
It seems like you're trying to leave the place to be outside of some sort of town or system of living and forming your own.
Yeah. That's it exactly.
Why would you leave one only to go create another?
If you don't like it, don't like the way things are run, you don't like the people that are there, you don't like listening to some people, you can always hitch a ride on the next wagon out. Find a nice quiet place that you do enjoy.
Narroth nods. He's processing the information and kind of putting a hand against his face.
It's exactly what I did. Didn't like being in one spot, so I kept moving.
But there was no one without a system. There was no one to protect those who would otherwise be unprotected.
Right. It's not a place you would want to go if you can't protect yourself. Or trust in somebody else to protect you.
Narroth nods slowly again. And you'd rather that than the security of a city somewhere where you can count on the practices, both good and bad. You'd rather take that a risk on your very survival every day than the certainty that the city provides.
Narroth, I don't know why you're asking me this. I left the freelance.
Narroth nods. Yes, but whenever you speak of them highly.
Lots of great people there. Not chained down by a ruler or a government that tells them what to do.
Then why did you leave?
I wanted to see new places. I'm not tethered down either if I never stop moving.
Narroth shrugs and nods. I suppose that's the case. Narroth looks back to the rest of the group. Well, it was interesting talking to you. And he's going to go back to his position perched above the caravan. Not caravan, cart? Merchant cart? I don't know.
Yeah, it's just like...
Bryn is going to whisper to Butterscotch. He's an inquisitive one, isn't he?
The horse kind of does the thing they do with their lips and shakes its head. It may or may not have been in reaction to what you said.
Bryn would probably take that as a reaction to what she said.
Perfect, okay. Anything else?
Yes, Astor will have a quick conversation with Narroth. He joins Narroth on his perch.
Narroth looks at him trying to scramble up to the top and gives him a hand.
Thank you. So, how have you been, brother?
It has been an interesting journey. How have you been?
It's been an interesting journey.
Narroth smiles and chuckles, basically just looking out onto the open road.
So, you're probably someone I haven't talked to this about yet, but since I wasn't there, I kind of just wanted to get a quick, I guess, rundown of your impressions of, well, the place that I appeared in.
The
What are
city.
your thoughts? Yes, I've heard that you've had a rather different outlook from everybody else, so I was kind of curious if I could get your input on that.
Well, I did not enjoy it. It was not a very, shall we say, rewarding city. Nothing appealed to me there, and we got nothing from being there.
Well, I guess in the short term, that's probably true.
Yes, I mean, hopefully we can get some resources from what becomes of their government, but it's not going to be as organized or as much as we would have gotten otherwise. They're rebuilding a society. They can't have as much to give as a fully formed society.
I suppose I can agree with that. Though, I will admit I'd much rather get less resources from a more positive society than a great amount of resource from a society of which makes me sick to the pit of my stomach.
Perhaps.
Not quite sure if you feel the same way, but that's how I see it.
Perhaps, but put that into perspective. What do you think our home is like right now? Is it a society that we would consider good? Or is it a society that is broken many of the same ways? We fixed one society, stranger society. We are, with every action we are doing away from our home, we are not doing very many things for our homeland.
I disagree. I mean, that society is not our society. That's the Wounded King Society.
It was our home.
It still is, but as far as I'm concerned, right now we're doing something to get it back. Even if we aren't physically there. That's why we're here, because, we had somebody who chose to have faith in us, gave us a task to help facilitate the goal we all have. And yeah, I mean, hopefully everything goes well, but all we can do is the best we can, I suppose.
Well, that's true. I feel like we might be playing around while our homeland is burning.
At this point, Astor gives Narroth a smile, and he places his hand on Narroth's shoulder and says, "My friend, while I can understand your sentiments, because we are away from where the more physical problems are occurring, I assure you that what we are doing is contributing to the cause. As I am, being just a one half man, half elf, I suppose, I realize that my word probably doesn't have too much weight, but I firmly believe that what we're doing is right, and that we will succeed, and that our society will go back to as it was, or hopefully even better as a result.
I just hope it has as much impact as if we were bringing the fight to Leon.
Never forget, war very rarely has only one front.
I cannot argue with that.
Great. Well, I kind of wanted to see how you were doing because I haven't really interacted with all of you here for a while, but glad to see you're the same old surly dragon that I've been traveling with.
Some things never change. Narroth smiles.
I guess not. Astor smiles back and he gets back down to walking on the road alongside the cart.
Cool. Anything else?
Not from me.
Nope.
Nope.
All right. So when I wrote out this this story arc, I was going to have a bandit encounter, and then I realized you guys are level 10. So yes, you guys have a bandit encounter
And we
where each of
destroy
you
them.
takes turns beating the crap out of these guys. So like I just imagine like Astor walking in and then them rolling their D20 plus 3 and never hitting Astor. And then he just kind of like beats him by flicking his finger, and then he like tags Lilith on the shoulder, and then Lilith comes in and then like does a couple things, and it's just like this tag team thing. You guys win. We'll just put it that way. There's no logical way why you couldn't beat a camp of like 20 bandits.
Damn.
But keep
Especially
that in mind.
if me and Narroth start booming spells.
Sure, yeah, and so you guys do have a couple of bandit encounters, not that big of a deal. You will arrest them. You might probably have a little cohort of chained up bandits that the Flaming Furnace Trio is currently taking care of.
Our party is growing again.
But yeah, we will fade to black at this moment. Take a quick break, and then we'll arrive at Vienna.
All right, we're going to go on a quick 5-minute break. We'll be back in just a few. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Low Rollers Live. We took a quick break, but now we are back with more Dungeons & Dragons. Chris, take it away.
Perfect. So, we are going to enter the city of Vienna at this point. It's about what you would expect from a medieval city. It's not as clean as Wexham, but we are following planes into the city. It seems mostly farmlands at this point going into it, but eventually you will hit the gate, which is freely open. There are people passing in and out. The main features that you are going to notice right off the bat is going to be the people. There's a combination of tieflings, the same blue toned tieflings that you are used to seeing. There is an assortment of fire genasi, which you have been introduced to the Flaming Furnace Trio. They are darker skinned people closer to an Obsidian black that have their hair appears to be on fire, and they have the color fire and kind of wave like it, though it doesn't appear to generate the same kind of heat that fire would. But at this point, you are introduced to water genasi. You see them wandering around. You do notice they do have a light blue, palish skin. It is only like a tint of blue. So while the tieflings are very deep, rich blue, this is just a slight coloring difference from the normal pale. And well, their hair seems to be flowing like it is in water all the time, in contrast to the fire genasi. You do get looks from people. Most people are opting to, I don't want to say ignore, but avoid you, perhaps, would be a way to say it. But there doesn't seem to be any major confrontation coming into the front entrance. The Flaming Furnace Trio will give you a nod and head off with their bandit prisoners to basically turn them in. Any immediate actions?
Not for me.
Not
Probably
for me.
I'm just looking around, taking in the scenery.
Exactly. Looking around the city, looking at what the different things are.
Cool. As you enter the city, you are going to see some of the extracurricular things that people do. You head into the marketplace, and people seem to be selling an assortment of teas and spices. That seems to be sort of the main sort of export they have. They also have things from other places around the continent, as well as fruits, vegetables, meats seems to be pretty popular there. You can smell food coming from a restaurant portion of the city. As you go explore a little more, you do notice that there does seem to be a peak athletic performance coming from everyone. There are people running, people sparring outside their houses with wooden swords or physical martial arts. There doesn't appear necessarily to be I don't want to say obese, but there doesn't appear to be an overweight person really in the city. Everyone appears to take their physical attributes very, very seriously. So everyone is toned, it appears. Everyone is well dressed, no matter what their social status is, and everyone appears to I'm going to say this oddly. In Excelsior, you go in and you'll see people with like 2 to 3 day old makeup, and they kind of go, that's okay. Here, it seems like everyone takes time to look in the most pristine condition with their facial hair, their makeup, their way their hair is cut. They take very high pride. Is that Is that a good way to phrase it? They take pride in how they look. Another thing you do notice is you'll see people with their children. They appear to be building some sort of lanterns, and these lanterns are being hung in front of stores and houses as you pass by. What would you like to do?
I will go into one of the stores that has a lantern out front.
Any particular store, or just want me to pick one at random?
Just pick one at random.
We will go into a store selling clothes made from the bluest of blues. I don't remember what color I'm thinking of. What is it?
Azul.
Ivory? No.
That's
Cobalt?
Ivory is white. Cobalt's a good
yeah.
one.
There is this particular blue hue that is in Japan that's supposed to be like the most authentic of blues that I can't think of. I was just watching like a 3-minute video on it today. Not important.
Indigo.
Indigo. There you go. That's what it is. It's everything seems to be made from indigo, and you see the fire genasi there, but her hands seems to have like a slight blue stain to it, and she's currently sitting at the register, I guess, just sort of passing the time.
Yeah, so Bryn just runs off from the group without warning anybody and goes into this store.
Perfect. What's the rest of the group gonna do?
Do we notice Bryn take off?
It wouldn't be unobvious.
Okay.
Do I see Bryn?
Yeah, everyone sees Bryn.
Okay, so then I'm going to turn to the dwarf and say, would you take care of my cart? And then jump down and follow Bryn into the store.
Okay. Everyone else?
I will say to Iskrim, sorry for her. Well, let's just say her rudeness in what she just said. I'm pretty sure she meant to say, would you be so kind as to take care of her cart, and actually call you by name. Sorry for his... Her. Sorry for her... I don't know what to call it, but I apologize for her.
I appreciate the apology. The thing that caught me the most off guard is usually people wait for an answer before they go running off.
Yes, she seems to have quite a bit that she wants to do. And so, and maybe this cart doesn't mean so much to her as you might think. So, I don't know. I don't know how attached she is to this. But, that being said, I will be more than happy to pay for any necessity of you storing it if need be.
Well, if we were really smart, we could have figured out what the word was that shrinks it back down to the statue.
Lilith, thinking to herself for a moment, she pokes her head back out and she goes, Zarrius. And then she speaks a word. It's like shrink in some other language, but in a magical language. It says, just use that word, put it in your pocket. And walks back in to follow Bryn.
Okay, I will say that word right next to the cart, hoping that it will shrink.
Sure.
and I will pick it up and put it in my pocket.
Okay.
There, now you don't have to worry about it.
Iskrim nods appreciatively, goes and makes sure his horse is okay.
At this point, Astor wants to approach the flame furnace trio.
They left to go take care of the bandits.
He's going to approach Iskrim. And he says, "So, Iskrim, if I may, how familiar are you with this city?"
Not at all. I live in the tundra, and this is my first visit.
Darn. Oh well, I was going to ask if you knew of any interesting places to, visit and kind of take in the culture a little bit.
Iskrim motions to Astor to wait for a second, and he turns and he says, "Hey, Rack, Shaq, Benny, any of you guys, do you know any places that we can go?"
They went to go take care of the bandits.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Oh, they didn't. They did not come with us, even though. All right, never mind then.
I do have an inn name that you can visit if you would like.
Sure. Let's say we asked them before they left where we should go.
The inn is called Legend of Conrad.
So I say, well, the three companions I was traveling with mentioned the Legend of Conrad Inn.
Huh. I don't know what the story is behind that name. Actually, I have a question for you. Another question for you. What do you plan on doing right now, if I may ask?
That is a good question.
Well, would you like to accompany me to the inn unless you figure out something else?
Iskrim thinks about it and he nods. He says, "Yes, that would be a good idea. I need some place to stable my horse. It is a little bit easier to walk around town, go into places when you don't have to stable a horse right outside of every door."
Good point. Astor turns towards Zarrius and says, "How about you? Would you like to come with, or do you have another agenda?"
I wouldn't mind coming with. I don't have anything specific that I was thinking about quite yet.
Cool. Then Astor turns towards Narroth and says, "And how about you?"
Narroth pauses. He's been thinking this whole time. I think I might go into that store with the others. I will meet you at that hotel.
Okay, just let them know where we're gonna be going so we can meet up later if need be.
Narroth nods. Will do.
Cut to the shop, Bryn.
Okay, so Bryn runs into the shop, right up to the register, basically, and goes, "Hi, I'm Bryn. Are those lanterns for the festival?"
Yes. Hi. You're an odd color, but I guess that's okay.
Oh, I'm sure you've seen red people before. Isn't she a fire genasi?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure you've seen red people before.
Not necessarily red tieflings, but it's a pleasure to meet you, Bryn.
And your name?
Nea.
Namea.
Sure.
Nice to meet you. Are those lanterns for the festival?
Ah, yes, my husband made that one for his mother.
Hmm. Do you have to make them, or can you buy them?
I mean, you can buy them, but one, the ones you make in your home are cheaper, and two, sometimes it means a little bit more to whoever makes them.
Oh. Well, my friend's here, and she points to Lilith and now Narroth, who's coming into the shop. We're from out of town, as you can tell by the red tiefling. Is there a place where we can get the materials and maybe some instruction?
Well, you can easily buy indigo cloth here if you would like, but any sort of general store will be able to provide you with the materials you need and some yarn and a tailoring set as needed. But the instructions are pretty simple. I can give you the gist of it and write it down for you.
Thank you. We'll check out the blue.
You see her take out an ink quill and write down a couple things. Takes like 5 minutes if you want to do something else.
Bryn will pull Lilith to the side. I think we have to buy something.
It's only courteous.
I don't know what to buy.
So a lot of this stuff has like intricate designs on it. You'll see things that tell simple stories if you hold it up against like flat, where it'd be like a man venturing out. I mean, they're very short stories. A man venturing out and donning his armor, and then as it goes through, it will see like a picture of him fighting a bear or something like that. There are things like tapestries you can put on your wall. There are robes you can wear, silks that may be more formal. There's nothing really quote-unquote casual, though.
Lilith goes to Bryn and she goes, "Do you own a dress?"
Bryn kind of like looks down. No.
Well, no woman should be without a nice, pretty dress. So let's find you a nice, pretty blue dress.
I think you don't need to worry about that.
I think we should.
No, I think the gun you gave me was enough. You don't need to worry about this.
And Lilith walks up to the woman at the counter and says, "I think my friend would like a nice, pretty blue gown. I'm thinking satin."
Really quick.
Sure.
I would roll a stealth check, but I'm not being sneaky about me leaving.
Okay. As you say that, Lil turns around towards Bryn, and Bryn's like walking out or running out the door, I guess.
Narroth, grab her.
Narroth's just gonna stay where he is. This is between you two.
Spoil sport. I'm still gonna buy the dress. I turn to the person behind the counter and say, "I'm still gonna buy the dress."
Of course, I can guess her measurements, but you'll have to get it fitted at another time.
If we can ever strap her down long enough.
That's on you, but give her these instructions when you get back to the wherever you're staying.
Thank you. And I pick out a nice satin dress.
It's on the pricier side. It's about a gold piece, but that's nothing to this party.
It's nothing to me. And I also give another couple of silver for the instructions of how to make the lantern, as sort of like a tip.
Thank you. Feel free to come back anytime. If we do ever get her fitted, just let us know. I'll recognize your guys' faces. You guys are much different than my normal customers.
We stand out of the crowd.
Here you do, at least.
And I say, "Is it possible we could get this dress wrapped in a box?"
Oh, of course. You see her pause for a second. walk or go like. So she's at a desk, so she goes into a cabinet of some sort, pulls out a nice gift box, something like that, and she'll fold up the dress nicely and wrap it in probably an indigo bow.
That makes sense.
But yeah, she hands you the book.
Now my day is complete. I have gone shopping. We can go.
Narroth looks back at the attendant. You go. Just give me a second.
Okay.
Narroth is going to go up to the attendant and say, as you can see, we're all very, very new here. Can you tell me a little bit more about the festival beyond the basics?
Oh, what do you know about the festival? Start there.
I know the festival has those lanterns that we saw outside. I know that in the festival, they believe, or you believe, that lights of those who have passed away come back for the night, and you bring the candles or lanterns into the lake and see your ancestors.
So the concept is that we build these lanterns and we give a meditative prayer to those people, and then we'll put the lanterns onto the water, and something in the lake will light up the candle inside the lantern to be able to give our ancestors a moment to return to us. Many believe that they communicate with their ancestors. Honestly, I haven't had that much luck with it, but my husband swears that his mother talks to him every time.
I see. And all you need is one of these lanterns?
One of these lanterns, the right timing in the year, and the night sky and the lake to light up the lantern.
Narroth he nods low, still thinking to himself. And what do you talk about with those who have passed?
I think that's more up to the person.
The ancestors don't have a say? Narroth almost smiles.
I think it's more of what you two communicate back. A lot of it has to do with if they are willing to communicate with you as well. It's talking with the spirit world's a two-way street. Yeah, you have to do what you can to invoke the magic, and then they do what they can on the other side to accept that magic of coming back into the natural plane for those precious few hours that they can.
Interesting. You invite them into this place.
Sorry, one more time?
Narroth kind of gives her a look. Interesting. You invite them back to this place.
If only for a night. It allows children to meet their grandparents and other people to meet their loved ones again. Share a moment with them.
And they don't want to stay?
Whether they want to stay or not, the lake sends them back.
Narroth nods. I see. Narroth looks back up at the attendant and says, "Thank you. Now, you may have noticed," and he kind of looks at his very torn and tattered robe that I have been traveling for quite some time. If you have anything that would be befitting of the occasion, I would very much like to do this properly.
Of course, we should have something that will suit your traveling needs as well, but be able to truly come into this moment. I'm sure you can guess the color, but we may be able to fit you into something.
Narroth nods deeply. Now, why are there different images, different patterns on each? What story they're trying to tell?
Oh, honestly, I get kind of bored when I'm working with so many patterns. We have straight indigo blue ones here as well, but I normally can sell them at a higher price if each one is unique in a certain way. So we have some of them that tell of grand adventures of people saving the world. You know, actually, I may have one that is befitting you.
Narroth raises an eyebrow.
Yes,
You made one for someone like me?
Oh, well, I made one to tell a story, we'll say. Let me see if it's in your size. So she goes back and pulls out what is basically a shirt, and over the I kind of think of it as, I'm currently thinking of it more as like something that is like a karate gi almost. It's more of a vest. It doesn't really have sleeves, but on the right chest, where it would be over your heart, it does have the image of a dragon face on it, and it sort of swirls around, and you see the making a circular shape. Maybe something like this. Excuse me for being judgmental about what you are.
Narroth shakes his head. No, this is perfect. I might have a few changes to make, though, and I'm gonna say that the rest of this is probably not worth saying on air, so let's have the scene fade out there.
Sure, and we'll have you describe it when we get to the thing.
Perfect.
If you're asking for a custom order, I think I have 2 gold written down for that, so
That's totally fine.
Again, nothing for this party.
Yeah.
And you'll probably receive it the next day.
No worries.
Cool. Rest of the party going to the Legend of Conrad? Where is Bryn going? We'll start with that question.
She runs out the door and tries to find somebody.
Well, everyone dispersed, so. But we'll say the Legend of Conrad was met before, or was talked about before you dispersed, or before you entered town.
Okay, so she'll make it there eventually.
Cool. The other 3?
Yes.
Do you guys go straight to the inn?
That would be my estimate. Yes, maybe if there is not a place for us to store butterscotch at the inn, then we might want to stop someplace to store butterscotch all along the way.
No, the inn has a stable.
Perfect.
We are at the inn.
Excellent. Isgrim goes inside, gets butterscotch stabled, figures out how much it is, goes to procure rooms for the night. I'm pretty sure that's not an impressive scene.
Okay. It's 3 silver per room and 1 silver for the stable, which is, again, nothing to this party.
Astor is going to walk up to the secretary, I guess, the bellhop. And,
receptionist?
Sure, receptionist. Who, male, female, who do I see there?
We'll say a woman water genasi.
Okay, so Astor walks up to her and he says, "Good day. How are you doing today?"
She wasn't really paying attention until you spoke, and she is kind of taken aback from your presence. A little bit. He's like, "Oh, yeah, hi. I'm doing all right. How may I help you today?"
Yes, actually two things. One, I would like to procure a room for the night. And then two, what is the legend of Conrad?
The Legend of Conrad. You don't know the Legend of Conrad?
I'm afraid I'm not from these parts, but I would love to hear the story. If that's not too much of a problem for you, of course.
Oh, looking at notes. So legend states that there was a man who supposedly became a part of the fire plane and the water plane together, and he became potentially the first fire and water genasi, depending on who's telling the story. But he took the volcanoes from the center of Lake Lacarum, moved it up, and put it towards the coast to the east, creating the Fire Islands. Now, genasi only really have come into the world about 100 years ago, so it's a little questionable about how he was able to make these packs. But that's the gist of it. I'm not much of a storyteller.
No offense, but I'm afraid I'd have to agree with you on that. But that is interesting, though. Who came up with that name for the inn?
The inn has been around for quite a while. The owner is very much into child folklore, so he's named an assortment of shops based off legends.
Interesting. I know you said the inn's been around for a while, but is the owner also around, or?
The owner doesn't come by regularly, maybe once a week, but he is most likely prepping his family for the festival.
Oh, that's right. That would make perfect sense. Well, I thank you for telling me the story. I would like to just go ahead and pay for my room then.
Of course, just the one room?
Yes.
And one room for me, as you might not see me per se. I kind of raise my hand to above the counter, maybe.
She looks down. It's like, so 2 rooms. That would be 6 silver. All our rooms are relatively the same quality, but we'll provide you hot water. Dinner will be served in the dining hall. A little after dusk, and there'll be breakfast in the morning. Unfortunately, we do not serve lunch at this establishment.
Iskrim looks at her. Oh, go for it.
I was just going to say, that'll be alright. Thank you for your help.
Of course.
Thank you.
Iskrim looks at her and asks, would it be any cheaper if I were to sleep in the stable with my horse?
We would prefer you to get a room, but if you really wanted to, if you're really that hard on your luck, we can do that.
I would appreciate that.
If you need some help, I can be more than happy to give you that silver. No worries whatsoever. If it makes you more comfortable.
It is less that I need the help, and it is more that it is a waste. I would not sleep in the bed. I would sleep on the floor. It is something that they could sell to somebody else. I would be more comfortable in a more natural place.
Interesting. That's just not what I'm used to hearing from someone. Sorry if I don't mean to offend you in any way.
No offense is taken.
Bryn can enter the scene.
You guys gotta hide me from Lilith. She's a monster.
Sorry.
Wait, what?
Just, I'm not gonna room with her tonight. Just, Astor, do you have a room?
We all just got rooms.
I'll stay in yours.
Astor kind of just raises an eyebrow and he goes, okay.
Just hide me from her. What are we doing?
I'll throw the 3 silver for Bryn on the counter. She'll be staying with us.
So that'll be 3 rooms total, and
No, I'm staying in his room.
Astor kind of looks back and shrugs and asks, would that be a problem?
no, I mean, we only have the 1 bed in the room, but we can pull in a cot if you want to do that, or whatnot. But there's no maximum capacity for a room.
I will offer Bryn to stay in my room, as I would be probably just as comfortable on a cot, since I am so small, as I would on a bed.
It's okay. Floor's fine. Just keep Lilith away from me.
I see.
Astor's kind of just, doing the whole putting his hand on his chin, kind of like maybe not scheming something.
Can Lilith enter the scene right now?
I think you can hear Lilith's armor from like a couple buildings down at this point.
I'm going to go up to my room.
I'm gonna steal the keys from Astor.
Well, damn.
Okay, Bryn and Zarrius run upstairs as Lilith enters the scene.
Where did she go? I have a nice gift for her.
Oh? Astor turns towards Lilith and says, what might that gift be?
Well, it's a beautiful dress.
Ah! So, she's terrified of wearing a dress. Interesting.
Is that normal? Is it normal for somebody to call another person a monster when they buy them a gift?
It's a figure of speech.
I think I really freaked her out.
Astor kind of... Sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to buy her a nice dress. No woman should be without a dress.
Astor kind of chuckles and says, well, I wish you the best of luck in getting her that dress, but probably would be a nice sight seeing her wear a dress, I guess. What color is it?
It's the most beautiful shade of blue you've ever seen in the world.
You do realize that dresses are not practical for fighting and traveling, right?
That's
I
not the
know
function of
that.
a dress.
That's not the function. Exactly, that's not the function of a dress. We are going to a festival. We can't wear our armor to a festival. You have to dress up and make yourself presentable.
Does this mean I need to change?
Well, what kind of armor is the Isgrim wearing?
White polar bear fur and light brown leather pants, fur bracers, and boots.
I mean,
He looks like a shaggy mountain man with a very well-kept beard.
I personally think that sounds badass, but I don't know about you guys.
Well, we might have to comb the dirt out of your cloak here and give it a little polish, but otherwise, you're fine. And Astor, you're gonna have to polish your armor now.
Yes, ma'am. You guys can kind of tell that he's kind of getting used to the whole of agreeing with women for the most part.
Okay, we're gonna pause this. Zarrius and Bryn, you guys are on the second floor, heading to your rooms.
Hey,
Or
Bryn.
to the same, or they're next to each other. We'll say that.
Okay. I'll for a second while the cuckoo clock shuts up.
The cuckoo's going off again.
The cuckoo is going off again. Sorry. Train of thought. I lost my train of thought. Anyways, Bryn, since you mentioned to me this morning. Oh, that's what I was going to ask. Okay. What time of day is it, by the way?
I think it's rising on dusk at this point.
Okay,
Or
so
lowering on dusk.
Okay, sure. So close-ish to dinner-ish time.
Yeah.
I'm thinking. My belly is thinking, I mean. Okay, so I'm going to say to Bryn on our way up, as we're kind of running up to our rooms. Hey, since it's almost dinner time, you know what I'm going to do?
What's that?
The thing that you kind of rubbed in my face earlier today, or the other day. I'm going to bathe. And I run to my room and close the door and lock it.
Oh, shit. Bryn's gonna open up Astor's room. Lock that.
Okay. So, do we have any more scenes you guys want?
I wish I had the knock spell. I so wish I had the knock spell.
Okay.
I think Astor might actually want to talk to Isgrim for a bit.
Go
Okay.
for it.
Isgrim is definitely kind of walking outside, taking his pony to the stable.
Astor will follow. And he's going to say, so what's the name of this fellow?
His name is Butterscotch.
Butterscotch. How long has he been your companion?
I found him in the mountains when he was a foal, and I've raised him since then.
Oh, wow. That's quite admirable of you.
It is very rare. Most of the time we have a small herd of ponies that we raise, but to find one in the mountains, they're very hardy if you can catch a wild one.
I see. So, Isgrim, if I may ask, I know very little. Actually, I have a more interesting question for you. If I may ask, how are you an ice dwarf? I'm completely unfamiliar with that concept, so I apologize if I come across as rude, but I am genuinely curious.
Player to DM, do I know that dwarves and other places don't look like us, generally speaking?
Probably not.
Isgrim looks at you completely confused. What do you mean, how am I an ice dwarf? I am what I am.
You can see Astor has a dumbfounded look on his face for a second, and then he says, well, all the other dwarves that I have met, at least from the continent that I'm from, as far as I know, there are no ice dwarves. So, I guess it's always been the way it's been for you then. Apologies for the confusion.
What do you mean there are other dwarves that are not ice dwarves?
Yes, quite frankly, you are the only ice dwarf that I have ever met, and your group of ice dwarves are the only ones that I know of that are in existence.
At this point, we've reached the stables, and Iskrim is starting to brush down Butterscotch, and he almost looks as if he's chewing on the side of his cheek, thinking about things. And then he says, "Describe to me these other dwarves, then. What do they do? What do they look like? If they're not of the ice, what are they of?"
Well, first and foremost, actually, I will tell you that, well, if we use you as a representation of your clan, you dwarves share a common trait. You're all quite strong looking, tend to be kind of stubborn at times, but you do very impressive work for whatever craft you may pursue. The only real difference is, quite frankly, just aesthetic. You yourself look much paler in comparison to the dwarves that I am used to. They tend to have more tan skin. I mean, quite honestly, that's it. Their skin is probably just a little darker and don't necessarily have an attribute of ice to their persona. But hey, a dwarf is a dwarf.
Iskrim is just baffled.
Astor notices that and gives a bit of a chuckle and says, "Well, I didn't mean to kind of just, break a world open, but that's how it is for us back where we're from."
He thinks about it some more, and then says, "That perhaps makes sense. You say they are not from the ice, they live in other places, so they have adapted to the land they live in, as we have adapted to ours."
Yes, I mean, they probably live in cave systems or just underground similar to you. The only difference is it's not a tundra. Usually. Now, apologies for shifting the topic again, but I don't think I ever really heard why you yourself are down here so far away from your clan.
Well, that is a sad tale indeed. I have since learned, in the grand scheme of things, that when the wounded king was released, that was when my people went from being one with the land to abusing it, to being very wasteful with it. And as I spread out and tried to receive help from other tribes near me, I found that they had all been taken over. And then I found that there was this man, Trident Maelstrom, who is convincing my people that it would be easier to war on the others and take and plunder than to live as one with the land and take only what is needed. And the further out I got, the more I found that this influence had taken over more than just my people, until I met you guys, and you said that this is on more than one continent, which is a lot and a bit overwhelming. But I'm here seeking help to free my people from this influence, and hopefully, if I can do that, I can bring them with me behind you and help you defeat this wounded king.
Well, that help would certainly be most appreciated. I'm sorry, what did you say was the name of this man again who negatively influenced your people?
Trident Maelstrom.
And have you ever seen him?
I don't know. Have I ever seen him?
That's up to you.
Yes, I have.
Was he human or what was he?
Let me actually check my notes. I know something about. I know he looked like a holy warrior.
He's an ice dwarf.
Perfect. He's an ice dwarf.
Well, please accept my condolences for that happening to your people at all, but well, I'd be more than glad to lend a hand once I figure out how to help you with that particular problem you're having.
I suspect if we can somehow eliminate or remove Trident Maelstrom, my people's wills will be strong enough to overcome the Wounded King.
Has he always been that type of person, or was this just when the Wounded King came out?
Chris?
He got his power from the Wounded King, but it's up to you. What's your character now?
I never heard of this person until the Wounded King came out. At least that is the best timing approximate I can come up with.
Suspicious. I really hope he's only an ice dwarf. Well, enough of this negative talk. While it is a very important subject, I don't want to, bring you down some more as far as your mood goes. So, I mean, once we get Butterscotch all set, do you want to take a quick walk around the city, or what are your thoughts, Grim?
I have been traveling for some time. I would like to actually see if I can use one of the rooms you or the others have paid for to clean up a little bit as well.
Yeah, I mean, feel free to go up and knock on their rooms, I guess. I mean, I kind of want to walk around and take in the sights some more, but feel free to take a rest. I'm sure you've earned it.
End scene?
And scene.
Okay.
Perfect. Anything else? We do have dinner, but we can fast forward to it being Bryn hiding in her room, and Lilith looking for Bryn. I don't know.
That's up to Alan.
No, Lilith is just going to give the package to Astor to give to Bryn.
Okay.
And then Lilith is going to proceed to take a bath and get, I guess, prettied up is the best way to say it.
Cool. The festival isn't tonight. It is tomorrow. Just emphasize that.
Okay, well then, I thought it was tonight. Then I guess she's just going to, have dinner and relax, I guess.
If I gave you an off timeline, we'll retcon it and say the festival is tomorrow. I'll give you an extra day. Anything else? To bed, quote unquote.
Yep. That's what it sounds like.
Okay. You guys go to slumber. We have Iskrim in the stables, Lilith in her own room, Zarrius in her own room, Astor and Bryn in a room with Bryn on the floor. Narroth has returned to the inn, likely procured his own room as well. And we effectively rest for the night. And the rest sort of comes very naturally at first. You hit your first REM cycle, the first hour and a half, pretty steadily, but a fog coming from the lake seems to appear, and for the briefest of moments, it envelops the city, and unaware from the party. At this moment, we'll take a little bit to basically have a discussion with each player about what is about to happen. So, Danny Garcia, Astor is a very interesting character. He just had a baby, Caleb, and he has a person who is in his life who he's kind of in a rocky relationship with. Is that correct?
I would agree.
We know that he has very interesting childhood. On stream, we talked a little bit about his mother, who he has met, and his father, who has since passed away. You want to tell me a little bit about that? Just ever so slightly, a couple sentences.
As far as what Astor just knows, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So his father was the leader of a circus troupe, and just by chance he happened to one day come across a beautiful elf who happens to be Astor's mother, and the two of them hit it off, and well, out came Astor, I guess. And since then, the mother and the father, they both kind of educated Astor on several different things. The father kind of did more of the acrobatic aspects of the circus troupe, whereas the mother is the one who kind of taught Astor the arts and how to play the lute that he has, because that's a gift from his mom. And then just knowing the Elven language is also part of his education through his mother. So, long story short, that's kind of how he grew up. Just became more proficient in both of those things, and eventually had a coming-of-age moment where he just left the troop and started adventuring and wound up here.
So, thinking about all of that, what do you think Astor's greatest fear is?
Well, I would say now that he's found someone to be with, he probably wouldn't want to lose that relationship. That would probably be what he'd be most afraid of at the moment.
So, Astor falls into this slumber, and he originally starts having nice dreams, thinking about his family and quote-unquote easier days, but the dream quickly turns to the scene with Killian, the drow, Lana, who is still pregnant at this moment, and Astor, who is there, and this is the moment of labor. You can hear the grunts, the frustration, the normal sounds you expect to hear from childbirth, which is actuality not like the movies, but we won't get into that. We do that, and she pushes, and but unlike Astor's memory of this scene, the baby doesn't actually come out with a cry. It comes out quiet, and Kieran delivers the baby, and Lana, exhausted, takes a deep breath at the moment, and Kieran looks distraught for the split second, and as we look over to Lana, Lana's face has gone gray, and she's no longer breathing. Danny Allinson.
Yes.
Now, You have a new character. We don't know too much about her yet, but if there's something in the backstory you feel comfortable giving at this point, maybe about her family to the briefest of extents, a couple sentences maybe.
Sure. If we go off the same kind of question that you asked other Danny about what her biggest fear would be, it's probably she's afraid of losing her independence by whatever means that may come from. So sharing a little bit about what she talked to Narroth about, breaking her back, her legs. She feared that she would lose her independence because she wouldn't be able to walk anymore. There's probably some other stuff from her past that would also make her afraid of that, or of situations which might lead to it. So that I would say that's probably her biggest fear at this point.
So we see Bryn in a familiar place in the town of Badwater. She is there for the briefest of moments, and she meets that person again, the person named Fist, and the person who crippled her. But instead of her getting off that killing blow and doing all that, Fist has the pistol in his hand and he shoots her right in the spine. And if what feels like eternity, she doesn't seem to be able to move at all. She has use of her hands, but she seems to be paralyzed from the waist down. Alan, we know a little bit about your family. We know we talked a little bit this session about your relationship, your mother's relationship to the Queen, being old friends. Why don't you tell me a little bit about Lilith's family?
Okay. Lilith's family is a very proper, noble family. They were very prominent merchants, and they dealt in import and export, and they were in all the high class social circles, and like I said, my mother was friends with the Queen, and they were always invited to the parties at the palace, and all the nobles, and a very prim and proper type of family, and something that Lilith tended to shy away from in her early days, but sort of got on the bandwagon after some tragedy happened in her life.
So we now see Lilith going from her family sort of mentality. I kind of see this as being like the fantasy equivalent of semi-shady corporate leaders, like the Lex Luthor types. We now see her kind of reject that and go more towards I'm going to say lawful route. What do you think Lilith's greatest fear is right now?
Probably total rejection. Rejection from her party, rejection from her family, rejection from her church. Being an outcast.
Okay. I think we return back into that crimson room in the tower, and Lilith has casted that dominate person / dominate monster onto Narroth. But instead of them being able to overtake Kai waves his hands around and casts that same spell of dominate person on Lilith. And this is like a complete mind controlling effect where Lilith is still aware of her actions, but she doesn't quite get it, quite resist it. She turns her things and she summons this flame strike down on her own party, which demolishes Zarrius and Astor, and she turns over to Narroth and looks at it, and Narroth takes out his fire dagger and swings it up and pierces it right into her neck. Robert, I'm assuming you see the trend.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about your family, your backstory. How was childhood?
Well, my early years was really centered around not knowing who my mother and father really were, and then coming to find out what had happened and why I am the way I am, in terms of a tiefling and whatnot. So that was my childhood, and then going through. I was orphaned, and this church kind of picked me up, and these monks picked me up and took me under their wings and taught me their ways, and that's kind of how I turned out the way I am currently.
And at this moment, what do you think Zarrius' greatest fear is?
Zarrius' greatest fear right now is not leading the party to the best of his, well, not to the best of his ability. That's not a worry of mine. I can do as best as I can. But leading the party into something that would affect us negatively, or in worst cases kill us. So probably just leading the party in the wrong direction, you might say.
I think we are back with the scene with the king from Wexham, where you go off and you have this fight with the king and you have captured him, and then he is put to execution by Marchette and Jennifer. And I think that the government that arises becomes darker and eviler than what was there before. And as you guys were a day or two traveling, you were surrounded by Jennifer, who is wielding the sword that King Collins was wielding, and goes, "We need to take your blood," and swings the sword at Zarrius, killing him. Rachael, putting you on the spot a little bit because you're still getting used to your character.
No worries.
Tell me a little bit about Iskrim.
He grew up where his father was actually the clan chief. It's one of those where it's like he doesn't have a whole tragic backstory. Nothing terrible happened to him. At least the ice dwarves have kind of a rite that they go through, kind of a rite of passing of age. And he went through his successfully, and he came back, and eventually he was made clan chief. And he's all about his people. So everybody is to do things for the good of everyone else, not just for themselves. So selfish acts are very abhorrent to him. And his greatest fear is actually being outcast from his tribe. So right now he's literally living his greatest fear. But in this instance, he feels he can get them back because it's some sort of magical thing that, bamboozled his tribe, instead of them like actually casting him out, like making the decision to remove his last name.
Have you thought anything about his mother?
I have not.
You want to maybe give me an idea or something?
Off of the top of my head, I have nothing. So if you have an idea, now's the time to run it.
Sure. Maybe something where when you pitched your character to me, I was thinking of How to Train Your Dragon and sort of the relationship between the father and the mother who is absentee in this scene. If you've seen both movies.
Just the first one.
All right. Well, I just spoiled the second one a little bit. So, we'll say your mother hasn't been around for unknown reasons.
Okay.
So, you have gone through your rite of passage at this point, and you have successfully survived in the tundra. You come back to your tribe, expecting, one, a warm blanket, and two, the normal feasting of celebration that sort of comes with passing your rite of passage. But you come there to see the smoke, thinking that something is happening for the preparation of it. But instead of seeing a boar roasting on the fire, you see your father and other dwarves are sort of prepping, basically cleaning their weapons after a battle. And they see you return, and immediately they pick up their weapons and they go, "You must leave at this point." And John, your character doesn't actually have much of a childhood. Your character doesn't have a lot as far as true family is concerned. But why don't you go ahead and give me a little glimpse into baby Narroth?
All right, so Narroth was pretty much raised in the streets. As far as he knows, that's the life he's always known. He suspects that he was abandoned because of, what he is. And so growing up, he basically turned to a life of crime and using those attributes in order to gain him power and usefulness, maybe. He used what was different about him to make himself more useful, I suppose.
Now we have Narroth being one of the self-proclaimed Prince of Thieves. How old was he when he obtained that title?
So he rose to be the leader of the Thieves Guild in Tyria. He gained that when he was probably only around 15 years old. He worked from the bottom, being one of the young people who would pickpocket and run around, and then as he developed, he graduated into more of a brute. So he would, request that people, pay their dues to the Thieves Guild. He would go and physically be menacing to other people, and then from there he rose to the leader of the Thieves Guild beside, who is his mentor by the age of 15.
So fairly young.
Fairly young.
A couple of story arcs ago, we have met Narroth's father.
Yes.
Provide some insight on that, maybe?
Yeah. So throughout the course of the campaign, we had discovered that Narroth's father was a dragon by the name of Dementia, and he basically became a threat by incurring his wrath within the Shadowfell on the main world. The party was sent to, kill him and destroy him, and Narroth kind of had to come to terms with, his heritage and who he was, while actually destroying the only tie he has to that heritage. Since then, he has not found anyone else that is even kind of sort of a dragon.
What do you think Narroth's greatest fear is?
I think Narroth's greatest fear is probably insignificance. That all his hopes and efforts are going to be in vain. That he will do all he can and it still won't matter.
I think we see Narroth wandering around in the ruins of Tyria. Potentially in a cemetery, perhaps. And he sees the gravestones of people he knows. He sees King Victor Creed. He sees Luke Wheatley. He sees Mild Miles. He sees the one guy who was part of your Thieves Guild, who I can't remember right now. But eventually he falls on the gravestones of his party. He sees Lady Lilith von Kiln. He sees Zarrius, servant of Obad-hai. He sees Ryan Yaldwin. He sees Katya. He sees Bryn Wanders, Astor Mithlader. And he cries, I think. I don't think Narroth shows a lot of emotion, but I think in this moment he would be overcome by it as we fade into black.
And that's going to end our live stream for tonight. As always, you can find us here on Twitch every Monday night at 9 p.m. playing Dungeons & Dragons. We also do a rebroadcast at 5 p.m. on Wednesdays, just in case the Monday nights are too late for you. If you had fun here tonight, please tell your friends. We'd love to have as many people as possible listening with us and being with us every night as we play Dungeons & Dragons. We are going to kick off our post-show in just a few minutes. We are going to redo the stream, so go ahead and reload your page, and that should go up. And we'll talk a little bit about this past session that we had, as well as a little bit more about Narroth, the last character you just heard of. So we'll see you next week, or again on Wednesday if you want to catch up. Thank you so much for coming tonight, and we will see you soon.